In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 NBA games happening on February 24, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Boston Celtics versus Phoenix Suns. Boston going into Phoenix feels like one of those games where logic and instinct are quietly arguing with each other. On one side, you have a Boston group that has been one of the most polished outfits in the league, slow-paced, methodical, and usually pretty ruthless when it comes to squeezing value out of every possession. On the other side, you have a Suns team that looks short-handed on paper with names like Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks in street clothes, yet still keeps finding weird, scrappy ways to hang around against teams that look more complete. Boston likes to play the long game. They slow the tempo, they walk the ball up, they hunt the matchup they want, and they are comfortable winning by suffocation rather than fireworks. That style is fantastic for stacking wins, but it does something sneaky to bigger spreads. It shrinks the number of possessions and leaves less runway for a favorite to blow a game wide open. When you add in the schedule, with this spot coming before a date with Denver, you can almost feel the coaching staff doing the mental math on minutes and risk for a guy like Jaylen Brown, who is already managing that knee issue, while Jason Tatum is still sitting out his Achilles recovery. They can still control the game, but there is a difference between controlling the game and stepping on the gas for 48 minutes. Phoenix, even without Booker and Brooks, has developed a sort of blue-collar identity that fits a home underdog really well. They crash the glass, they poke at the ball, they chase extra chances like it is a side hustle, and they do not mind if the game gets a little ugly. Jalen Green gives them those sudden bursts downhill, and if Grayson Allen is able to go, he pulls defenders around with his movement shooting, while guys like Colin Gillespie and Oso Ighodaro glue possessions together with little reads and simple plays. It is not glamorous, but it stacks up. Extra rebounds, a few live ball turnovers, one more possession here and there. All of that is exactly the stuff that keeps a team within touching distance even when the talent gap says they should be drifting away. Honestly, that is the kind of formula that turns a scary-looking matchup into one of those nights where the favorite never quite pulls completely clear, even if they feel like they are in charge most of the way. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. On the surface, you see 2 slower teams and a pile of injuries for Phoenix, and your first thought is probably that points will be at a premium. Here is the thing: that slow pace from Boston comes with one of the most efficient half-court offenses around, even without Tatum on the floor. They stretch you out with shooting, they play through a big like Nikola Vucevic in the middle of the floor, and they are very good at turning steady, boring possessions into threes and free throws. It is not flashy, but trip after trip it quietly adds stress to a defense. Phoenix changes the math in another way. Their whole personality is about creating extra opportunities. They grab offensive rebounds, they swipe at dribbles, they jump passing lanes, and by the time you look up they have squeezed a couple of extra shots out of a quarter. That kind of volume does not just help them, it forces the opponent to defend more plays, contest more shots, and inevitably foul more often. Against a polished attack like Boston, every extra scramble, every late rotation, and every tired closeout can turn into clean looks or trips to the stripe. On the other end, the Suns are not relying on one superstar usage monster right now. They are patching the offense together by committee, with Green attacking, shooters spacing, and that relentless work on the glass giving them second and sometimes third bites at the apple. Games like that rarely feel like free-flowing offensive showcases, but they do have a way of nudging the scoreboard along because defenses are under pressure for longer stretches and small mistakes get repeated. So even with the slower tempo, you have a mix of high efficiency from Boston and high-volume effort from Phoenix that points to a game where the total has plenty of paths to climb higher than it might look at first glance. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Minnesota Timberwolves versus Portland Trail Blazers. The Minnesota Timberwolves head to the Moda Center to face the Portland Trail Blazers on Tuesday night. The Timberwolves are coming off a win over the Mavericks and a loss to the 76ers, with the Clippers waiting for them next. They have won 8 of their last 12 games, which sounds solid, but the way they get there has been anything but smooth. Portland dropped a game to the Nuggets, bounced back with a win over the Suns, and then seized the Bulls next. They have won 5 of their last 7 games, which is a nice little surge for a team that has spent much of the season fighting uphill. Minnesota could be slightly shorthanded, with Naz Reid currently listed as questionable for this one. The Blazers have ruled out Denny Avdija, Shaedon Sharpe, and Damian Lillard again, so they are dealing with their own fair share of absences. The Timberwolves come in as moderate road favorites, which makes sense when you remember they have already beaten Portland twice this season. No team has been more maddening for bettors than the Timberwolves lately. Some nights they roll high-quality opponents with ease. Other nights they get blown off the floor by teams missing big pieces. That loss to Philadelphia jumps off the page, losing by 27 to a group missing 2 all-star level players, even without Rudy Gobert on the floor, is the sort of result that lingers in people's minds. Ant-Man and company have every reason to show up focused here, because that performance gave critics a full clip of ammunition. The matchup itself looks friendlier. Portland has been a comfortable opponent for Minnesota, with the Timberwolves winning both meetings this season and dropping only 2 of the last 10 head-to-head. They handled the most recent game with ease, a 133-109 win less than 2 weeks ago, and that one never really felt in doubt. With Gobert expected back in the middle, the rim protection should be noticeably stronger than it was in that disaster in Philadelphia. The Blazers are coming off a wild little 2-game stretch of their own. A game after giving up 157 points to the Nuggets, they turned around and held the Suns to just 77 in a 15-point win. It was not pretty viewing, but it was effective, and it snapped the immediate embarrassment. Denny Avdija is back on the injury report with that lingering back problem and is expected to miss this one, which strips away another piece of their rotation. Playing as underdogs has not exactly treated Portland kindly lately. They have failed to cover in 5 straight when catching points and sit just 12-23 straight up in that role this season. Over the last 10 games, they have shot better than 50% from the field only twice, so the fact they are 5-2 in their last 7 is a bit of a minor miracle. That kind of shooting inconsistency makes it hard to trust them for 4 quarters against a defense that can tighten up when it takes things seriously. A lot of people were burned by Minnesota in that last outing, and you can feel the hesitation to go back. This, though, sets up as a clean bounce-back chance for Edwards and the rest of the group. They know they can handle this opponent, they just did so in convincing fashion, and with their size back in the paint, Portland's margin shrinks even more. If the Timberwolves bring anything close to their better version, this is the sort of road spot they should control from early on and close out with a solid margin. As our first pick for this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Timberwolves are averaging 119.7 points on 48.4% shooting while allowing 114.8 points on 46.2% shooting. They are shooting 37.5% from beyond the arc and 74.6% from the free throw line. They are allowing 35.8% shooting from deep and are grabbing 44.8 rebounds per game. That is the picture of an offense that can score efficiently with real spacing, paired with a defense that is not perfect but can still get stops and close possessions when it locks in. With Gobert anchoring the middle, the defense tends to look more organized, and opponents get fewer easy finishes at the rim, which quietly trims down overall scoring. The Trail Blazers are averaging 116.3 points on 45.2% shooting and allowing 118.3 points on 47.5% shooting. They are shooting 34.2% from beyond the arc and 77.3% from the free throw line. They are allowing 36% shooting from deep and are grabbing 46 rebounds per game. On paper, those numbers suggest plenty of points, but the way Portland gets there is very streaky. Over their last 10 games, they have shot over 50% from the field only twice, which means long stretches of clanking jumpers and empty trips. That inconsistency matters against a defense like Minnesota's. If the Timberwolves protect the paint and stay connected on the perimeter, Portland is going to have a hard time keeping its scoring rhythm from slipping. Missing key creators like Lillard and Avdija only increases the chances of those offensive lulls. A tired possession here, a wasted trip there, and suddenly a game that looks fast on the surface is actually producing fewer efficient possessions than you would expect. Minnesota can certainly put up points, but if they control the game, they can also dictate tempo and lean more on half-court execution than pure pace. That kind of script, with one team grinding down the other's efficiency and not needing to race the clock, often nudges the final total under what the season averages might suggest. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Orlando Magic versus Los Angeles Lakers. This matchup in Los Angeles has the feel of a spot where the home team knows the script and the road team is just trying to survive it. The Lakers are sitting at home, comfortable in their own gym, with the market already leaning their way as favorites, and that alone subtly shapes how both sides approach the night. You get a veteran group that has heard all the noise after a rough, nationally televised loss and has had time to stew on it, which usually turns a regular game into a response game. On the other side, you have a young Magic team living out of suitcases, deep into a demanding West Coast swing, and those trips have a way of catching up to your legs even if you feel fine at shoot-around. The scheduling spot matters more than people admit. Orlando is stacking road miles and emotional minutes after wild finishes earlier on this trip, including that exhausting marathon in Phoenix and a tight contest in Los Angeles against the Clippers, and that kind of grind slowly taxes decision-making, closeouts, and late-game execution. The Lakers get to sleep in their own beds, follow their usual routines, and walk into a familiar floor with a crowd that tends to wake up whenever a big run starts brewing, especially after they have just been embarrassed on a big stage. Honestly, that mix of comfort and pride is a dangerous thing for a tired visiting team. From a roster perspective, the gap in stability shows up when you look at who is actually available. Los Angeles has its headliners active, with Luka Doncic orchestrating, LeBron James still capable of flipping the switch, Austin Reeves providing connective tissue, DeAndre Ayton controlling the interior, Rui Hachimura stretching the floor, and Marcus Smart stirring up trouble at the point of attack, while the only notable concern is Jackson Hayes dealing with that ankle issue. That is a lot of continuity, a lot of usage, and a lot of ways to attack the same weak spot from different angles, which gives J.J. Redick plenty of tools on his whiteboard. Orlando, by contrast, is juggling more uncertainty, leaning heavily on Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane as primary engines while monitoring Jalen Suggs back and dealing with the long-term absence of Franz Wagner, who normally gives them a huge boost as a two-way wing. Without Wagner, the Magic lose some of their most natural offense on the wing and a key defender who helps them survive matchups exactly like this against big shot makers who love to hunt switches. Here is the thing, that kind of loss rarely shows up as one big play. It shows up as a slow bleed, one possession at a time. Stylistically, the Lakers can turn this into the kind of game that suits them. They do not need dazzling ball movement on every trip when they can space the floor and let Doncic and LeBron pick the matchup they like, then lean on Ayton's presence around the rim to punish smaller lineups or tired legs. Smart's defensive nastiness and Reeves's feel allow them to apply pressure on Orlando's ball handlers, so those long road trip possessions get a little more labored and a little more uncomfortable. It is not a perfect setup, because young teams like the Magic can sometimes punch above their weight when nobody expects them to, but the combination of rest, experience, home comfort, and a more complete rotation tilts the floor toward the hosts. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Lakers to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The interesting part is that neither side is in a rush to turn this into a track meet, even if both have star power that can light up a scoreboard in bursts. The tempo for both teams tends to hover around a pretty ordinary pace, which nudges possessions toward more half-court offense and longer trips where sets actually get run and mismatches are hunted slowly rather than in pure transition. When you stack that with the travel and wear on Orlando, you start to see a game that breathes more than it sprints. For the Magic, their attack leans on Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane creating in more physical ways, getting into the paint, drawing contact, and living through tough twos and free throws rather than a barrage of effortless threes. That style eats clock, especially when they flatten things out late in the shot clock and let their main guys work. If Jalen Suggs is not fully right or has his minutes watched, the ball handling and pressure on the rim can fall on a slightly shorter rotation, which tends to slow things down even more as fatigue builds. It sounds strange, but a team that wants to get to the line often can quietly drag the pace into a slower, more methodical rhythm. The Lakers, even with their offensive talent, are not some track team bombing away from deep on every trip. Their scoring often comes from Doncic bending the defense, LeBron picking spots, Ayton finishing inside, and role players spacing just enough to keep the floor honest, which can produce strong offensive numbers without a crazy speed. That means fewer true run-and-gun sequences and more controlled half-court possessions where both teams actually get set. When that meets a Magic defense that has been solid and likes to make games feel like wrestling matches in the paint, you get a recipe where every bucket has to be earned. Defensively, the Lakers have not always lived up to their talent, but this is one of those situations where their flaws can be covered a bit. Orlando does not stretch the floor with elite shooting in every lineup, so Ayton can be comfortable in his coverages. Smart can pressure the ball, and LeBron can pick his moments as a helper rather than chasing snipers everywhere. That sort of setup can drag Orlando's scoring into something more grindy than explosive. On the other side, the Magic's length and physicality can still bother Los Angeles, especially if they decide that this is going to be a statement on that end and use their size to contest everything around the lane. The schedule grime leans toward a more muted scoring environment too. Double overtime games and tight finishes take a toll on legs, and tired legs usually show up in jump shots that come up short, slower closeouts that still force tough twos, and fewer deep runs in transition. If the Lakers do what they would prefer and play from in front, they can comfortably slow the game down, walk the ball up more often, and squeeze value out of each possession rather than trading quick jabs back and forth. Honestly, when you pull all of that together, the story sounds more like a game where the total ends up lower than the raw offensive talent might suggest at first glance. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.